Some of the fan base have decided to attack Moses Ingram online. Just sickened me to my stomach. You're no Star Wars fan in my mind.
The Star Wars fan base really seems to be the most kind of toxic.
And occasionally even the detractors themselves.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love.
I do not need a 40-year-old white dude to tell me what didn't work for him about A Wrinkle in Time. It wasn't made for him. And I'm also saying I don't hate white dudes. I'm just saying I don't hate white dudes. These are just facts. These are not my feelings.
But all of that could be about to change. Because now, even Brie Larson is firing back with a blunt response. The media is twisting narratives again, making it seem like she's addressing men upset over Captain Marvel, when in reality, she's calling out the media itself. In an interview with The Telegraph, she was hit with a loaded question. Why do you think men feel threatened by you? Instead of playing into their trap, Larson simply stared back and said, I don't know. I don't pay attention. The interviewer pushed further, asking if that was how she handled misogyny. At this point, we're in, when did you stop beating your wife? Territory. They didn't ask if misogyny was the issue, they assumed it and demanded she react. When she refused to play along. They still twisted the narrative, putting words in her mouth. But Larson didn't back down. She clapped back, making it clear. You're connecting me to something that has nothing to do with me. This marks a shift. Celebrities are catching on. They know these interviews are traps and they're done playing along.
Agatha is the gayest project Marvel has ever done. Gayest Marvel project. Gayest Marvel project yet. Gayest.
Throw that variety guy. Oh, he's a master at setting people up. That's exactly why he's a favorite. He knows how to twist a conversation and get people tangled in their own words. Give him 100 different sound bites and he'll find a way to turn at least one into a controversy. And guess what? He was the same guy behind that infamous Rachel Ziegler clip. Coincidence? Not a chance.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
The real problem? Celebrities played along for too long. As long as they believed the media was on their side, boosting their egos, giving them a platform to push their ideology. They were walking straight into a trap. What they should have realized is that the media isn't their friend. It's a coiled snake, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Every interview is a setup, every question a potential landmine, and now it looks like they're finally catching on. This isn't entirely new. Brie Larson herself has dodged these kinds of traps before, but the shift is happening, and it's about time.
As a sort of outspoken and very vocal advocate for Time's Up and Me Too, I'm curious how you feel about Johnny Depp's film opening the festival.
You're asking me that?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't understand the correlation or why me specifically.
So I'm just curious if you will see it and how you feel about its selection here.
Well, you'll see, I guess, if I'll see it, and I don't know how I'll feel about it if I do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Or you'd think Brie Larson would have figured it out by now. Playing it calm and unbothered is the ultimate defense. But then you look at Mads Mikkelsen and he takes a completely different approach. Instead of dodging, he goes head-to-head, straight up challenging the journalist who's clearly made choice out for blood. It's a bold move, but sometimes that's exactly what it takes to shut these setups down.
This is a cast and a Danish production, which is entirely Nordic. It therefore has some lack of diversity in Hollywood.
What are you on to?
Sorry, but
From
it's
the get-go.
Rules of diversity across the Atlantic. You don't live up to these standards with this broadcast because of lack of diversity, that this can't compete in that competition. Are you worried about that?
Are you? I'm serious and honest because you're putting us on the spot, so
Yeah,
you
sure.
answer the question.
This isn't exactly new, but it's becoming more obvious, and honestly, more desperate. More actors are catching on, and the media's questions are getting so blatant, it's almost laughable. Look at this setup. They already knew Larson wasn't going to play along, yet they still pushed, asking if she believed female superheroes were seen as an aberration. Really? That's not even subtle. Sure, aberration can just mean unusual, but let's be real. It's usually meant in a much harsher way. And Larson, she saw the trap coming a mile away. Her response? I don't think there's a way for me to answer that without it becoming a problem for me. That says it all. The media flat out admitted she was right. They knew answering would cause trouble, and they still asked anyway. If that's not proof that journalists are out to stir controversy on purpose, then what is? It's always been expected that celebrities know how to handle the press. Basic media training, don't say anything dumb about the movie, keep it light. But now, they need a whole new level of training. not just to promote their careers, but to survive an interview without destroying them in a single sentence.
We have to give a mirror of the society around us. So that's really important for all art, because if every single film gets all the diversity into the single films, then all films becomes the same.
At this point, it's painfully obvious what journalists are after. They don't care about real conversations, they just want clicks. They want a headline guaranteed to make people angry because controversy sells. That's the game, start to finish. And this time, the questioning got so bad that Larson's publicist had to step in, which almost never happens. They basically shut it down, telling the interviewer, "I know what you're doing. Stop trying to bait my client. Move on." And what did the journalist do? Pretended to switch topics, only to circle right back, implying that Larson was avoiding the subject of sexism, even though she's spoken about it plenty in the past. You cannot win with these people. Say too much, you're controversial. Say nothing, you're dodging the issue. Larson later clarified, "I don't feel that everything I say is a stance. Sometimes I speak out, sometimes I don't." Translation? She's learned the hard way that sometimes staying quiet is the only way to keep your career intact. And honestly, she's right. When you're promoting a movie, that is not the time to attach it to a divisive issue, because once that happens, it's not just your reputation at stake, it's the entire film. And if even Brie Larson, once the poster child for disastrous interviews, has figured this out, then anyone can. Well, anyone except Rachel Ziegler, who just couldn't keep her mouth shut.
And I saw myself on screen and I just wanted to throw up.
This shift in Brie Larson is significant. She's gone from claiming that acting is a form of activism and pushing for an all-female Avengers movie to now saying, "I don't have anything to say about that." Remember when she said Captain Marvel was a depiction of the female experience and that 2019 was all about intersectional feminism? Heck, she even claimed that female superheroes should smile more. And yet, despite all of that, she still didn't land the Jedi role in The Acolyte. Disney, one of the most activist-driven companies, didn't give her the part. Why? Maybe they were worried that if she and Amandla Stenberg got too close, the universe itself would collapse in on itself. But honestly, it's not just a story about a couple of actors learning from their mistakes. Brie Larson's case is a perfect example of how far the pendulum has swung, from one extreme to the other. We've gone from her calling out the patriarchy and being outspoken about feminist ideals to now, when she's learned to shut her mouth when needed. She used to stir the pot in interviews, saying things like Captain Marvel was all about empowering women and causing friction with other Avengers. Actors? And now? She's learned to simply say, "I can't answer that." Let's be clear, Brie Larson hasn't had a total conversion. I'm sure she still holds the same beliefs, but now she knows how to control what comes out of her mouth. And that right there is a massive shift.
We need to be conscious of our bias and do our part to make sure that everyone is in the room.
At this point, I'll take it. I don't need actors to agree with me on everything. I just need them to understand one thing. The money comes from the audience, not from the studios, not from your boss, but from the people who are buying the tickets and supporting the movies. So, make them happy, don't piss them off. The main reason actors end up angering the public is because of the journalists asking loaded questions, fully aware of where those pressure points are, and they hit them every single time. Interviews have become a daily risk for actors, damaging their reputations because they don't know when to just keep quiet. But here's the thing, we're starting to see the shift. This is one of the first signs that change is coming.
Imagine there's no heaven.
Imagine no possessions.
Brotherhood of man.
Any group that's after success, any group that's focused on money, eventually starts thinking, maybe I shouldn't answer that question. Maybe these journalists are actually my enemies. Eventually, they'll get it. They'll realize that it's not about pushing their personal agenda or talking about controversial topics. It's about what the audience actually likes, not what they despise. And if enough of them learn to shut up about the controversial stuff, you'll start to see more and more actors speak to the audience, not the agenda. This is the beginning of that shift. In Hollywood, it's been a system designed to push out anyone who didn't fall in line, forcing everyone down the same narrow path. Now, the game has changed. If actors can't even talk, about their beliefs without risking their career, it's going to make them wonder, do we even need these people? Maybe it's time to bring back the ones who actually made Hollywood profitable. The ones who knew what they were doing, who made money for the studios, and were fired for not following the prescribed agenda. I don't need actors to agree with me to bring Hollywood back to where it should be. As long as the competent people get back in the room, it's game over for the ideological forces that have hijacked the industry. Competence will win, and the results will speak for themselves. The reason we haven't seen that yet? Because those competent people have been pushed out. What we're witnessing now is just the first step. Actors are beginning to realize that the media in these interviews are not their friends. They're not allies. They're not to be trusted. This realization is the first domino in a series of shifts that could eventually bring us back to a Hollywood that actually makes decent movies. And once that happens, it's game on for the industry to start creating real content again.